Hello and welcome back to Unpopular People.
We believe that listening and learning from each other is key for personal development and success.
Today in our interview, Marla from the Philippines.
She was born on the Philippines, but she lives on the Gold Coast now, and she worked in hospitality most of her life.
You will find out more about her and her life story in this interview.
If you want to find out more about us, please visit our website www.unpopularpeople.com.
You can also find our shop with Unpopular People clothes made of sustainable materials just on our website www.unpopularpeople.com.
Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, also on our website.
And now enjoy this amazing interview with Marla.
Hi Marla, nice that you are taking the time today to have this conversation with us. We are looking forward to this. We both had a long day so far and been out working, and we hope we're not too tired, but I think we should be fine. We usually start our conversation with the same question, just for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. And maybe you can tell us, where were you born, and tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Good day, everyone. I'm Marla, and it's nice to be here. I'm born in the little island called Mactan in Sibu in Philippines. So Sibu is actually in Region 7, which is in the middle of the Philippines. Would say it's a beach island. It's a resort island. So I grew up in kind of a mix of an island city vibe. So really, when I was younger, there's a lot of coconut trees around me, but as I grew up, the whole area just turned into a big city. So it was kind of a weird transition from living in an island lifestyle and then, and ended up in a big city. So we still don't have, in my island, we still don't have that big public transportation. So we still have tricycles and little minivans, what do you call them, so that you can, it's not a bus, but it's a minivan that you can get on, hop off somewhere. So, and there's no bus stops. It's like, you know what I mean? So you just hail the van and you just get on and get off. And later on, it developed into a more organized public transportation, and the tricycles started to disappear, and now everyone's driving their own cars and everyone's driving their own motorbikes. So the development just really was a bit kind of quick and fast and sudden, and my little beach island became a resort island. Yeah. So what should I say, growing up, so on the island, Mactan Island, so we only had a few schools, I think, when I was growing up. So I'm actually not young. So I grew up in an area where there was actually maybe 2 elementary schools, private schools that are where everyone goes, and the rest of them are public schools. So if you're kind of in that area, you go to either one. And I ended up in one of the private schools, St. Andrew's School. It doesn't exist anymore, but that was the only one. There's St. Andrew's and St. Alphonsus. And by the sound of that, they're both Catholic schools. Yes, so Catholic private schools, right? So private doesn't mean like the same in the first world countries. When you go private, it's really exclusive and all that. Anyone can go into these private schools. It's just that with private schools, you pay. In public schools, you don't pay. And if you want a better sort of education for your family, for your children, you go into a private school. Well, your parents send you to a private school. So my parents, because we're on Mactan Island. How we ended up in Mactan Island is because they both work at the airport. So Mactan Island is where the airport is in Sibu. And my mother is from Bohol, which is a neighboring island, and my father was from Manila, which is in the north of the Philippines, which is the main, the capital of the Philippines. Yes. So they both work at the airport. My dad's an engineer, and my mother was working in the catering at the airport. So obviously they met and they settled down and they thought, okay, let's just live 5 minutes from the airport, which is on the island. Yeah. So it was 5 minutes from the airport, and everybody, just in that little area, just kind of knew each other, hang out with each other, and work with each other. It's the same little kind of group of people. So growing up, all my friends, their parents knew my parents. So it's a community, and I think elementary what do you say elementary here? Is that the same thing? Primary, yes. So from primary, that's everybody I know. My parents knew their parents. So it's kind of like, okay, or if you go somewhere, you're like, oh, hello again. So you go to, we didn't even have a mall. We had to go and cross the bridge to go to the main island, which is Sibu, to go to the mall. And I don't know if it was a real mall. It was just probably a shop. But, that was the only place you could go. And so I grew up in that kind of idea that when you need something, you go to the wet market, or we call the what is that in the terms here? Like a fresh market, farmer's market. So if you needed to buy fish, you go to the fresh fish market. There's no refrigeration. If you need to get some meat, you go to the meat section, there's no refrigeration as well. So it's kind of like people like, oh, really? No refrigeration? But means that you have to cook that on the day. So people go to the market every day. And that's how I grew up. It's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of, everything needs to be consumed right away. Yeah. And growing up like that, I thought, this is a simple way of life. But then as the years went on, and it just became a bit more like, oh, we need this, we need that, more material things, refrigeration. Oh, you can store more stuff. You can, let's say, keep more meat. You can save stuff. You can buy ahead of time, and all these things. It just changes your mentality, and the way we were educated is just also very different. It's now more like, oh, you need to get into a place where you become a professional. You work and you earn, and you have to become a professional to actually achieve anything in life, to be able to succeed. So the simplicity and the little island life doesn't equate to anything anymore. Like, you have to be something else. And I thought that was a very big change in my life. And I think I also kind of learned to adapt in that society. And yeah, so.
Do you have any siblings? And how was it in your childhood to grow up with them, if you have some? Please tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm supposedly the middle child, but then ended up becoming the eldest child in a sense. So I'm the second of 5 kids. Growing up, because there was only 3 of us. First, my older brother, me, and my younger sister. So we were more likely more close in age kind of differences. So age gap. So growing up, it was only 3 of us. And so I was a middle child. And then later on, my parents had another child. So she was a bit quite like later on. So now I'm not the middle child anymore. And then later on, another child came. So it was like, I became 4 girls and 1 brother. So I became the eldest girl. So I then took on the role of the eldest child, because of course boys will be boys and they will never be the eldest child. No, just kidding. My brother's really I would say he's very mature now, but when he was younger, of course, he was always the youngest child in a sense, because he was the only boy. So growing up with them, I remember when it was just me, my brother, and my youngest sister. It was so different being the middle child. Like, my brother was always the best child, and my youngest was always the baby. And so I'm kind of like, where do I belong? But then I kind of changed that role very quickly when I had another younger sister, and I think I took on now the responsibility, like I'm the eldest child, like I will be more kind of take responsibility. It wasn't really given to me, but I just kind of like, ooh, I'm the eldest child now. And I actually took on a lot of responsibility without knowing it. Maybe because it was just kind of, I thought that was my role. So like I said before, my parents were working at the airport, and later on decided, my father decided he would go abroad. So I was 3 years old when he started going abroad. And that just means that there wasn't really much of a parental kind of existence in our family growing up. So I would say since I was 3, he started going to Saudi Arabia to work. And at the time, he could still go home every 6 months in a contract or 1 year. And my mom was still working at the airport, I remember. But then later on, she quit her job and decided to join him. And I think I would say maybe at the age of 12. Now, both my parents were abroad. So you see, how does that happen? How does that work? How does that exist? Because we're Filipinos, we have family. So my cousins lived with us, and so we had an older, because my mom was the youngest child, so her siblings, kids were a lot older than us. So we had our cousins, and I think they were in their 20s, maybe, I don't know. I just remembered that they were also going to school, to uni, and they were just staying in our house. And I would say this is where it starts to get weird, because I would say each one of us had a bit of a spoiled upbringing, because we had our own, we call them Yaya.
What's Yaya?
Okay. A Yaya in Philippines, it sounds really bad, but is like a nanny. But in our terms, it was more like your guardian in a way. If you're a kid, okay, they raise you, they feed you, they bring you to school, they watch over you. But in our case, I don't know what happened, but we all had each one a Yaya growing up. And I had my own. My brother had his own. My youngest sister had her own. So they all had roles. One cooks, one cleans. It was a weird upbringing. I don't know. And then I realized, like, this is kind of like, is this how it works? So, you can just, go do about your business, because someone's there to make you food, clean your house. And I think we were able to do it because we could afford it in a way, because my father was abroad. He sent money home, and I didn't know that was the case. I just thought it was normal, because it was also normal with my classmates, because someone in every family, in every Filipino family, in some case, someone is abroad to earn that money to bring home. And so I thought it was really normal in our circle.
Sorry, may I ask a question? What were your parents doing in Saudi Arabia to give you so many Yayas?
All right. So as I mentioned, my father was an engineer. So he was an aircraft engineer. So when he started going abroad, so of course he started working as an aircraft engineer. and then he became. I think he took more classes and seminars and all that, and then got promoted and all that. He ended up running an aviation company, not as a CEO, like one of the managers. So it's a private company. So he did that for a long time, more than 30 years. So he was always doing aviation. So he never did anything else, I think. So he was able to, and like even then in the 80s. Oh, now I'm telling my age. Even in the 80s, it was actually everyone we knew went abroad to Saudi Arabia. It's either you go to Saudi Arabia, work as an engineer or a nurse, or probably the US. Like the opportunities were in that direction. Like everyone was always, striving to get that ticket to go abroad and earn that money to send home. Because obviously there wasn't a lot of opportunity during that time. And I think Philippines as a country, as a nation, weren't that, advanced in all that. I don't know if it's actually caught up now when, the salaries still probably really, really low in terms of international standards. So that's why everyone thought that the best way you could, lift up your, situation is go abroad. And so that's how we ended up with a lot of Yayas. And in the end, I didn't realize that was a bit over the top. And over the top it is. It is. If you think about it, how can you afford? Because we didn't have to pay them the real actual proper salary that everyone should earn. It was very kind of, they're living with us, we food and board, I think it was considered and all that, and they were all pretty happy because they're probably coming from the provinces, and then they come to the city, which they thought that was the city, but I just thought it was a little island anyway. And it's a better life for them, they're earning money and all that. And these Yayas that we actually grew up with them, so we still knew them later on when we see them back in Bohol or somewhere else. They still tell stories about how they were when they when they were taking care of us in Sibu. It's like, so it wasn't a bad experience for them, I would say, and I'm really glad to hear that, because I just really felt I had a bit of guilt, kind of thinking like, oh, why was that happening? And I thought like, oh, that shouldn't be, that shouldn't have been, because you shouldn't have 5 Yayas to take care of 5 kids. And so, and later on, when I was already in my teens, I made the decision not to do that anymore in the family, to get my younger sisters a bit of a reality check, if that's what you say, because even if you couldn't afford it, we were still doing it, it was just part of kind of the lifestyle that we got used to. And I just decided, no, we just don't need it anymore. We're all quite, we should learn to be more responsible. And so
that's really mature. What changed your opinion back then? Was there a moment where you realized, or what are we doing, or that you got aware of the situation? What happened? Okay, so that's a good question, because I looked around, and my friends, my neighbors, and they didn't have individually have a Yaya. And I thought, we're not rich. I just didn't think we were. I just didn't think we were in that level. I just thought it was just weird because my parents weren't there. So they just thought they would, kind of have someone to take care of each of us. And my mom would come home, or she would be at home actually. Sometimes she would be with my dad in Saudi, or she would be home, but still we had them, so I would say she just got used to it, that even if she was there, we still had people, in the house. Our house was really busy, and at least 20 people.
For me, it sounds like a palace.
It was not a palace. I'm just saying, that's what I mean. I grew up in a house where it's always so crowded because there's people everywhere, but it wasn't a big house. You know what I mean? Like, people just learn to live with each other. So I thought it was normal. So, like I said, what changed my opinion is if you go out, you learn, I think, through what you observe outside, and you're going, okay, this is not normal, really. Like, my neighbors don't have this situation. And why do we have so many cousins in the house? Or why do we have, so many people or neighbors coming into the house? Like, I just didn't know what was going on. I just didn't quite understand why we had so many people. And I thought, okay, this is not normal. So, and I think I started to read a lot more and learn more about how life works, and it's not just in the Philippines, but just how, normal life is, and family and all that. I just thought this isn't how you should raise your family. And I thought, I didn't want to kind of say, yes, my parents didn't do it well, but I just thought this is just not how you should raise your kids. And because I thought my younger sisters still have, they didn't know what was going on. I thought I shouldn't give them this kind of upbringing because they need to be more responsible, because I thought everything was easy and provided, and I don't have to work for anything because it was all there. And I just thought that's not how the world works. You need to kind of learn to work for things. You need to deserve it. You need to, how do you call that? Have the integrity, and not just, order people around to do things for you.
Is this the reason why you chose to go into the hospitality industry?
I don't know. That might be, but I think it's because it was natural maybe to me. I would say it's different in the Philippines. Okay, when you say uni, we say college. It's like the US. So we finish high school at 16, and you start uni or college right there. Like, there's no course to going into uni. So I would say, you go straight into that, and you have no idea what's going on with the world. I would say you're not mature enough, right? So, yeah. So I don't know. Things just happened, and I think let me trace back. The first course I thought I would do is like, I would do hospitality. It was actually called Hotel and Restaurant Management in the Philippines, because that's what I enjoy doing, and that's what I, kind of already know how to do. And we don't work in the Philippines. Yeah, so you don't get into a course, and you have to work. You have to earn your money. You go to school. You focus with university, or you focus with your studies. And so I just thought, this is so much fun. Like, I can go and learn how to do hospitality and. And then it's no. I thought it was fun, but here we go. So I thought, this is fun. And then later on, I thought, I need to be more serious about life. Like, this isn't kind of where I should, think this is where I'm going to, as a profession. I just didn't know what was going on. So I was 16 and then 17, and I thought, you know what? I need to change we call it shift to a different course. And then I shifted into psychology. So far away from hospitality, because I thought, I need to be more serious, and I need to know, I need to actually go towards where I really kind of, see myself. And I thought psychology would be perfect. But at 18, I already started kind of working. And what happens when someone works? You earn a little bit of money, and then you get complacent, and you're going, why am I going to school? I don't earn money going to school. So of course, Miss Marla dropped out. and just worked and worked here and there and all that. And I thought, yeah, so you dropped out. I mean, you drop out and you go back, and you drop out and you go back, and you kind of like, I don't know what happened, but you just ended up working. I mean, I just ended up working and earning money, and I just thought, this is really great. I don't have to ask for any allowance anymore. I mean, I could have, but I just thought, this is really good for me. And I didn't know that was actually normal in other places of the world. Yeah, so it's a different culture. So I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm earning for myself. I'm buying things for myself. And it's a different kind of feeling to be able to buy something that you actually worked for. And you tend to know the value of money and the value of work. You learn the value of money and the value of work, and you go, I'm not going to spend my money. I'm going to try to save it for something more, like worthwhile. Whereas if you were given an allowance, you would just think of the next, which I did. I mean, I have to admit, I would just think of the next party I'm going to, or what pair of jeans I'm going to buy, or it's just constantly just consumption and spending, because it wasn't the money I earned. But when I started earning, I was really, really careful with my money, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep working, and later on, go back to school if I really want to pursue that course. And I did actually. Hold on. What happened was my parents actually bought each of us so it's kind of, I don't know what you call it, but so they provided us with a college fund, which I didn't use I am so guilty. I just wasted it. Kept enrolling myself and didn't go to school. Kept enrolling myself and just partied, didn't go to school. But, I have to admit, it was, why? Because you're so immature. You start at 16, you don't know what's going on with your life, and you just kind of, I have to go to uni now? Oh, okay. I don't know what to do. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, you're going to a party? Oh, let's go there. So it's just a very, I think going to university, you need to be more mature, I think. And I think 16 is a really young age to go to university. And I think that's what happened. And it happened to me, it happened to my brother, it happened to my younger sister. So it's not just me, and a lot of my friends, same thing. And later on in life, you go, I really want to go to uni now, and I know what I want now, and I did that later on, actually. So I went back to school. Now I had to pay for it. I had to pay for it because I already spent all my parents' funds, so I had to pay for it. And I thought, okay, I'm going back to school now. And then I actually finished 3 years. It's a 4-year course. I finished 3 years, and then I quit again. I don't know what's wrong with me. And then I quit again, and I got a job again in hospitality. And I just thought, I don't know. It's just maybe the fear. There was a fear of succeeding. That, I don't feel like I deserve to succeed in that level. And I just, maybe I wasn't ready. So I just, went back to hospitality and did something else. And then I ended up actually taking another course, which I also paid for myself, the dive instructor course, which brought me then to become a dive instructor. And that's when, kind of everything happened, still in hospitality, doing diving, working in the resort, working in a diving diving shop, yeah, and going on boats and working as a diving instructor. I just don't know what happened. And it's like, and then now I just felt, what, if you just stuck there, you would have been already done with it, but then I wouldn't be here. So everything in my life just kind of happened, and I just kind of, what's it called, instinctively just kind of went this way and went that way. And I thought, what, it might have been I don't know, it might have been for the good, for the best or whatever, but I could have finished it then, and then now this is what I wanted to do now.
So everything fell into place, you can say. Everything happened naturally. So we were working as a diving instructor on the Philippines. And why did you choose to come to Australia? What happened?
Yeah, funny thing. All right. It's a really long story, that one, how I ended up in Australia. But, okay, how would we say this? I would say it's because I met my partner a long time ago when I was working at the resort in Sibu in Mactan. And we met. We became friends. We stayed in touch. And later on, several years later, we met again. We hung out again, and I thought, yeah, it was a good time to, kind of move on. And it's a really, really long-winded story. But we met in Sibu, and nothing happened. We stayed friends, and then I met him again in Bali. So this is what happened. I met him again in Bali. I went to Bali because I was traveling, and then he was working on a boat there, and I was traveling, and he said, "Oh, do you want to work on a boat?" And I thought, well, why not? Because that's me. I always just, okay, why not? Is there diving? I was like, no, yes and no. You wouldn't be working as a dive instructor, you would be working as a stewardess. And I was like, well, I've never done that before. And he's like, well, it's the same. You serve, you take care of people. And I was like, you greet people, and I thought, okay, I'll do that. Can you cook? And it's like, oh, all right, I can cook as well. And so you're going to be the chef and the stewardess. It's like, wow, all of a sudden I'm a mariner, a chef, and a stewardess. I've never done it before. I know how to cook, I know how to serve, I know how to talk to people. In that sense, now I've kind of just went straight into that. And 5 years later, working on the boats and still with my partner, we decided to move to Australia because he's Australian. And so he decided he wanted to move back to Australia to settle down. And that was in 2017. So we started dating in 2013, and that's kind of like how it fell into place. In 2017, he said, okay, let's just start moving to Australia. And we kind of, because we were working on the boat still then. It's really hard when you're, floating. That's what we call it. And to find solid ground. When you're so used to be floating around, it's really kind of a hard decision to say, okay, we're going to be in one place. Don't you agree? Because I think you're both the same. And so when he said that, I thought, like, you know what? I guess it's time. But what happened was when we got here, and we thought, okay, we'll stay at the apartment that we had. He bought an apartment way before, and it didn't happen actually because we found another job, and we left again. So in 2018, so 2017 we kind of started to move. In 2018 we worked again. We went to Thailand, we went to Myanmar, back to Indonesia, and then I just thought, you know what, I think I'm going to do my course, my culinary course yes. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you that. Yes. Oh, here we go. So I actually did a formal culinary, international culinary arts course. So it would formalize my cooking kind of profession, because I had the experience, but I didn't have the qualifications. So my boss, my former boss, that was her gift, like parting gift. He said, I'll instead of just giving you a bonus, she paid for my course in the Philippines. And there was a choice to do it in Australia, but I couldn't do it in Australia because I wasn't in a working, visa. And to become an international student, it was really expensive. It was like double the amount, and it was already out. It's just like I said, I couldn't do that to my boss. I just felt like no. So I'll do it in the Philippines, and it also gave me the chance to go home and be with my family because I've been away for a long time. And gave me the chance to catch up with my sisters and all that kind of, and also it was also a chance for me to kind of see if I really wanted to move to Australia. Kind of like, do I convince Joel to come to the Philippines instead? And settle down there. No, I was like, no, I'm gonna go to Australia. The thing is, when what's in your head and what's actually happening is totally different things. I've been away for too long. I have to admit that I don't think I could actually settle and work there in the sense that I'm not saying I'm kind of it's not what I'm used to anymore. Like I've been away for 5 years abroad, and I thought, you know what, I would have loved to just be back in the Philippines and do what I was doing there, but I couldn't find myself I couldn't see where it's going to happen. Either I start my own business, doing something that like cooking and all that, but it would take so much effort and energy and money, which I didn't have, to do all that. And yeah, so a lot of things had happened, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna take all of this and then go to Australia and start my life there, because I from Indonesia to coming back to the Philippines is like also relocating. So I'm just like, nah, I'm just not going to do that, and I think it would be better to just go to Australia. And I think Joel, my partner, has been away for a long time, and he wanted to settle in his home state, because he actually is from Brisbane, and then decided, he grew up in Brisbane, but he lived in the Gold Coast most of his life because he is a surfer. And so he said, I'm going to go back home to the Gold Coast. And I thought you're from Brisbane. He said, no, I was born in Brisbane, but I actually lived in the Gold Coast most of, his adult kind of, surfing life. And when he moved abroad and worked abroad, he always came back to the Gold Coast. And I thought, well, okay, so, I have no idea what Australia was like. And I didn't know how good Gold Coast was. And now I know. I've been here for a while. It's like, oh yeah, this is actually a really nice place. And yeah, so that's what happened.
We're taking a quick break and be right back into the show. If you want to learn more from Marla's experience in hospitality, you can join our community.
Just sign up for our newsletter on our website www.unpopularpeople.com and get access to our Unpopular People community. And now back to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much so far. It's been very interesting. Elisa was right when she said there's a lot of, there are many stories that you can tell. And I actually want to find out a little bit more about your parents, because I think it's very fascinating that they sacrificed so much to go to Saudi Arabia. I was just wondering, how did you know any stories from your parents from Saudi Arabia? Because I think it must be quite hard, especially for a woman, to go to Saudi Arabia and live and work there. Do you know anything?
Okay, so actually what happened, my father worked in Saudi Arabia, my mother didn't. There was no way she was gonna find work there as like in her profession. Like I said, you either have to be a nurse or an engineer in Saudi. And so my father had so when he moved there, he had his own accommodation and all that, so that actually gave them the opportunity. He could bring his family, but he decided not to, because it's a really different way of life there, which he kind of thought he could handle, but we couldn't. And also he didn't want us to move into a different society and they have a different mentality. Actually, he lived in he wasn't in Riyadh, which is like a more strict area. My father was in Jeddah, which is a more relaxed area, or I would say state. I've never been to Saudi Arabia. He would not let me go there. I wanted to go and visit, but he wouldn't. he said Jeddah was more relaxed, so the society is more kind of easier to, how do you call it, assimilate into. Like they didn't have to wear, that strict burqa and all that. And there's a big Filipino community there as well. A lot of people who work abroad as well. And he said, like I said, he said, because I've never been there, and I only hear stories, and the only stories that you hear from your father, of course, are the good stories. I would not know how bad the situation would be, because I would assume that he had a good job and he had a company that took care of him, and I would say, if he wasn't comfortable with it, he wouldn't have stayed there for so long. But as a man, it would have been an okay situation, but I don't think it would have been an okay situation for a woman. So from what I've learned, and I will tell you later because my brother is now in Saudi Arabia, that's another story. So everywhere they went, my mother could not go anywhere unless he was with her. So she was stuck in the house with no windows. It was like, okay, there's a window, but you have to put the blinds down because no one else can see you. You're not allowed to, show, a woman's not allowed to show even her hair, and so it's so you don't have any windows. You're stuck in the house. Every time they go out, of course, they go shopping, because that's the only reason why you would go out. And it's hot in Saudi Arabia, duh. It's desert, so they don't go out in the daytime. So they go out in the nighttime. So my dad's working all day, and he comes home and picks up my mom, and they would go out into the shops and buy food or groceries or whatever, and also a lot of shopping, a lot of material shopping, and because that's the only, I would say, pastime that anyone could get over there. Because where you do sports? You wouldn't do sports over there. It's where would you go? You in your full burqa, in your full attire, and you can't do anything like that. So, and of course, women are only allowed in women areas, and men are allowed. They can't mingle, and I think from what I've heard is Filipino communities, of course, because Filipinos are Filipinos, they would hold parties in someone's house so that they could hang out and kind of have a more free kind of get together, because they can't do it outside. So they have to do it indoors and sing karaoke, have a party, cook some food and have a few drinks, and that's the only kind of or I think they probably secretly go somewhere where there's no one. They wouldn't say where it is, like on the beach or something, and then they can take off their, coverings. And I've seen some photos, like, oh, what happened? Where is this place? Like, you're just wearing shorts. It's like, you can't get away with that because you have to be covered. And it's like, yeah, there's some places that we could go to, and they would fish, and you would, you just go fishing, and they just go to the beach because, yeah, funny enough, the Arabs don't go to the beach. Yeah, of course. So that's where they all go. Like the foreigners, they go somewhere where they don't. The Arabs hang out, and they can get away with being open and hanging out with men and women together. So it's a quite different society, I would say. I mean, I'm not going to judge because I haven't really been there, right? So the only stories I know are the stories I was told. And my father was always quite, I think he was content with his life there, which is weird because that means he has a life there and he didn't have a life back home. I mean, back where he's supposed to be home. And so I would say my father, I would have seen him once or twice a year in my life growing up. And like maybe he would spend a month with us and then disappear again. And before internet, before cell phones, what do you have? You have letters, and you have long distance calls, which are really expensive. So meaning it was more of an idea So a father as an idea rather than a real kind of, interaction. So I had a really, what do you call that? High kind of regard of my father, and it was my kind of, this is my idea of my father, and he's my provider, and he's my, I always wrote letters to him, which I never got any letters back because I don't know, because he was, because it takes so long to get there. And then, and he would call and he's like, oh yeah, I got you. So he doesn't care for just the writing. He would probably send me a birthday card or a Christmas card. But I never thought my dad would, sit down and write a letter to, to us. But I always wrote letters and, drew pictures. And that's like kind of my way of showing like, oh, this is, I can write now, I can draw now. And it's kind of like how I was telling him I was growing up and all that. I mean, and I would always encourage my siblings to do the same. It was like, let's write letters to dad. Like, oh no, we call him, or, and it's kind of, I really remember like no one had the energy to do it. Like, no one really knew what to do, but I was like, oh, come on, let's all write letter and, send it to dad and all that. Like my mom's like, oh, record. Oh yeah, we recorded on the tape to say, hi daddy, how are you? And, we sent that very slow mail. And I thought that was really sweet, actually. Like, because, well, of course, I don't know. We didn't have video calls before. We could only call him, very, very, very often because it was so expensive to call anyway. So, and I thought my dad was always working. That's what I thought. Like that, this is my father. He was always working. And the only time I could see him when he's home, he didn't want to go anywhere. He wanted to just be at home, reading a newspaper, smoking cigarettes, and just sitting there and doing nothing. And then I think later on I asked him, it's like, Dad, don't you want to go to like, Boracay, or like Boracay is like that famous island in the Philippines. I don't know if you've been. So it's like a really popular resort island as well with white beaches, and really it's just it's a destination that everybody kind of like, goes to if you go to the Philippines. I just thought, oh, don't you want to go and try and like, check it out? And he's like, you know what? I'm not working. I just want to stay home. It's like, oh. And that's when I thought, oh, he must be really working hard, because when he's now on a break, he just doesn't want to do anything. I had no idea what that meant because I wasn't working at that time, and I didn't know like, oh, how could someone be working, not wanting to go out, like on a holiday. And I just thought, okay, that's what he wanted. So he would, my memory of my dad growing up is his newspapers, his cigarettes, and his coffee. Yes, and that's all he kind of like, and he always loved to tell stories, and he was a funny man. And my mom would just always shake her hands like, oh, here we go, he's gonna tell that same joke again. Like she's heard it probably a million times, and he would tell the same jokes. But it was funny, like for me it was like I would still laugh because I haven't seen him in a while, and it probably was new again to me. And yeah, so that's my idea of my dad. And my mom, on the other hand, because I grew up with kind of her being there but not really there, or kind of like I thought that was okay, that was normal, that like, she would always just send me to my grandmother in Bohol. I don't know, maybe because I was a naughty kid, I have no idea. I would say so. But I always remember my summer, we call them summer school holidays, and she would always ship us to because we go on a ship. She would ship us to my grandmother for the whole summer, and I would spend time with my grandmother up in Bohol, and she owned a canteen. Maybe that's why I'm in hospitality. There we go. Now we found out. So she had a canteen. She was running a cafeteria, we call it, and it's for people traveling, from Sibu to Bohol. And it was in a little place called Tubigon, which in translate to water, like has a lot of water. And so I would hang out there, and and this is what I'm saying, I could eat whatever I want. because she owns a cafeteria. I could, you know, do whatever I want. And I just like remember growing up, I could eat whatever I want. And, you know, this was how I grew up. Like food was never a problem for me. And food is always a part of my life. And, you know, and even now I always kind of associate everything. Food does always have to be there. Like it has to be, you know, you share your food, you cook together, you enjoy it, you share it with other people. And yeah, and maybe that is why I'm in hospitality. And so my mom, I would say, I always remember her being, what's the term? Very youthful and in some ways innocent. So I always thought of her like, oh, she's a really cool mom. Like she was always taking us to, you know, dressing us up and dressing us up like dolls. And you know, I remember I had what do you call these black little little shoes, Mary Janes. They're my favorite. They're called Mary Janes, right? With white socks and ruffles. What do you call them? The socks. So they're really like doll shoes, and then the socks are even doll socks with the raffles, and your dress and fluffy dress. And I just remembered like I really don't want to wear a dress, but why am I wearing this? It's like I had no choice.
But what's wrong about this? I'm wearing this right now, so.
That's true. It looks good on you. Yeah. So she was very artistic. My mom is very artistic, so she would always wear colorful clothes, and I thought it was she was way before her time. What do you call that? Like advanced kind of fashion, because she was always wearing so many colors and rainbow, very trendy. And later on, my siblings actually talked about it. We just talked about it recently. It's like, you know, Mom, you used to do this and do that, and then later on, it becomes a fashion. And like, and when she was doing it, it's like, oh my God, we were so embarrassed because we just thought she was looking like so different than everybody else, like a clown, because she's so colorful and all that. And then later on, I'm like, oh, now everyone's wearing it. You know, like, you know what I mean? It's like, so she was very fashion forward. There you go. She was very fashion forward. And so having a mother that is so colorful, I just wanted to disappear. I just wanted to wear gray and black and white. And I still do. Now, because I just don't want that attention in a way. I mean, I don't want to attract attention like that. Like, that colorful.
A while ago you told me that your mom really loved sewing, and yeah, maybe you can share this with our listeners. What did she do for you and your siblings?
Okay, well, yes, she's very talented. I think she got it from her mother, my grandma, and they probably, you know, learned all these crafts and all that. And because she was the youngest child, she was able to do crafts and arts and all that. Whereas I would say her older siblings would probably have to do the cooking and the cleaning and the washing. And my mom was drawing or doing arts. And so she grew up, she knew how to sew, crochet as well. So she would sew curtains and tablecloths and pillowcases and cushions and all that. But because my mom being my mom, she would buy fabrics and, you know, like a whole roll of fabric, and she would make a curtain and a pillow and the covers in that same fabric. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know. It must be the same with with mothers who do that. I think you can relate that they would love to do everything in the same fabric in the same pattern, and your whole house just looks like one pattern, and you're like, oh my God, I feel like this is over the top, but that's how she does it, and that's how we grew up. So everything has to be kind of uniform. And if she does something new, she has to change the whole thing. She wouldn't mix and match like plain colors. It was always very colorful, and I can appreciate it now, but I have to be honest, I hated it. I hated it growing up because it was just too much colors, and it was like clashing colors everywhere, and they didn't kind of, there wasn't a harmony to it, I would say. But I think for her, it made her really happy, and I think it was her way to express, her art, and it wasn't only that. She painted, she drew, she she like real painting and all that, and she did crafts as well. So a lot of crafts, so clothes, and I remember my dress growing up, and the puffy, what do you call them? The puffy shoulders, and I think it was in peach. Can you imagine wearing peach? Oh my God, peach. And not only the clothes, my hair was also extraordinary, and my siblings, and we all had this look, and I thought it was pretty embarrassing to but I think as parents, they all wanted to dress their kids as dolls, and I could appreciate that. You can see it now, all these, and even the influencers, they're dressing up their children like dolls. But like I said, I didn't want to be in that kind of like her, like in the colors and all that. So I always wanted to wear black and plain white or brown, and I just thought there's enough color in this house that I don't need to be one of those colors. Like I can be, just like in the background, and that's probably why, and then I thought, you know what, she's actually pretty artistic. And, you realize that when you become an adult yourself, and you're going, there's things that you don't appreciate when you were younger, and you just kind of rebel and all that. But then now you're like, oh, that was really nice in a way, like she was very, very and she took a lot of time to do things. I remember I asked her to make me a dress for, I think it was a dance or a formal, and I demanded that she put sequins in it. Sequins, like little shiny, in a dress. So you have to sew them one by one. And because she can crochet, I asked her to crochet it, sequins into her crochet, and I asked for a shawl, like a cover, like is it a shawl? Yeah. So to put on my dress, so to cover my shoulders, and she painstakingly did that one by one and put it in there because I asked for it, and that's just me. And I just thought, oh. And now thinking back, it's like, oh, that was really bad. That was really demanding. But because I just thought it was so easy for her, like, oh, you can do that. You can make me one. And she would crochet us girls uniform, like skirts, like really nice skirts. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. And I had my skirt for years and years and years, and my sister stole it. Yeah, because of course, when she grew up, the fourth one grew up, because it was for me and my other sister. She's like, oh, can I wear that now? Like, oh, you've had it for a long time. Can I borrow it? And it's like, it never got returned. Yeah.
So you grew up with so many siblings and so many different influences from different jobs from your parents, and your mom was into art, and your brothers and sisters do different things as well. And so if you imagine, when you started many courses yourself as well, so if you imagine as like you would have a school full of kids, what do you think is like some of the most important things they should learn, or what do you think is missing in the school system in our world?
Okay, so I'm in Australia now. I haven't really been in school in school in Australia, so I would say in the Philippines, from my experience, I would say our school system is quite very formal, and there's no real interaction, like and critical thinking. And I think my growing up with my education, I just thought, you sit there, you listen to your teacher and listening to whatever the teacher is talking about, and you absorb it in a way that you learn. I mean, how you can absorb it. If you're not as quick as everybody else, you fall behind. There's no real attention to each student, and there's no practical application on every subject. So I would say, if I had my way, like now, if I could, go back, I think kids need to learn about practical life skills. I know it's about you go to school, you learn language, you learn science, you learn maths and all that. Yes, there's practical applications to those things, but in real life, how are they supposed to apply that in real life situations? And I would say teach a kid how to plant from the seed, to teach them patience, and just to see things, how to make things grow, and the attention that you need to give to that seed to make it sprout and to actually make it grow into a plant. And also about food and where it comes from, appreciation of that, and also to learn the value of food, and not to waste it, and not be to learn to appreciate. If you know how to grow your own food, you appreciate the value of food. You don't just it just shows up in the supermarket. Someone has to grow it. Someone has to like in agriculture, someone has to actually put their time and effort to grow our food. And I think a child, if they learn that at a very young age and appreciate that, they would have a more open mindset about life and how things come to the table, and appreciate things more, and have more respect to and to all these things that are happening. And like I said, practical application of things. And there's a lot of, I would say in my society in the Philippines, there's a lot of people knowing the theories. Like they can spit out so many quotes and from authors and everything, but that's all kind of like they're stuck in that area where it's all theory. Theory is like but no application, because if you put them in a situation, they wouldn't know how to solve a problem, because they have no idea how life works, because they only been sitting down absorbing information and not being able to apply it. Like in first world countries, when you start to do a course, you actually do a job, like a practical, like on the job training. Whereas we all have to kind of learn, go to school, and when you're finished, that's when you start applying for a job. So really, you didn't learn practical applications on while you're studying. So you go to do your on-the-job training on your 4th year of uni, which is really a bit too late, I guess, I would say, in my opinion. And I think you should start from when they're tiny, when they're 5 years old, when you're still learning all the basics of life skills, and also when you're still forming your, what's the term, when you're forming your principles and your character. And because I think a person's character is shaped and formed when you're still as a young child, and it all kind of it's developed and molded as you grow up. But if you're kind of starting very early and giving them good foundations, they would become really good adults, I would say. And you give them good values and not instill fear. I like the Australian way of putting them straight into the ocean and go do the nippers at a very young age. That's a really, really amazing skill that we don't have. we're always scared to go in the water. I mean, I remember going out, don't go in the water because you're going to drown. But so, see, it's a totally different way of racing. You know, there's a instill fear, whereas here in Australia, they instill, confidence, and, you can do it. You know, there's a few sharks here and there, but they won't touch you. They won't bother you. You know what I mean? Whereas in the Philippines, you have to go follow the straight line. Don't go off, don't color, off the line. It's like, when you're coloring, you have to go make sure that you're in that line, you're in that circle, because, this is how you succeed. This is what we're telling you. So we're all like kind of falling in line like sheep, and you're herded into this way. Okay, you want to become a nurse, so this is where you go. Or you become engineer, this is where you go. Which I'm going to say, it makes us really, really good workers, but not very good thinkers. Like, we don't have, a lot of people I know don't have a lot of opinions about stuff because they just didn't grow up given that opportunity. And children nowadays, like, if we have the opportunity to teach them, I think you should teach them more about life skills rather than, becoming a professional on something. Because if you know life skills, you can do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in every country you have like the good and the bad. Thank you very much for sharing this. And I think we're slowly coming to an end now.
Yeah, I think there's so many questions to ask you. If there are listeners that would like to find out more about you, where can they do that?
So if you'd like to learn more about me, maybe go to Unpopular People website, which is www.unpopularpeople.com.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing all this information. It's been great. The girls have to leave to go to work now, so that's why we have to cut it here. So thank you very much for your time.
If there are any final words you would like to share with our listeners, now is the time for it.
Well, thank you for having me. Would that be the final word? Thank you for having me, and it was really fun talking to you guys. I could have elaborated more and hours of talking. But yeah, so it was really nice to share a few things, and I think I've discovered a few things myself about, if when telling a story you actually free association, I would call it. It's really good, and I think my final words would be in life, as what I've learned, everything is a learning experience. And it could be good or it could be bad, but they're all really good life experiences. And I think everyone should appreciate every single moment that we have in this world, and we should also learn to share that greatness, like that kindness that we have. And I think that's it. Like we coexist. We're not going to go anywhere if we don't learn to live with other people. And I think that's what makes life, I would say, more satisfying and more fulfilling, is to be able to share it.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Marla. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this very inspiring interview with Marla.
All show notes about this episode you will find on our website www.unpopularpeople.com.
And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and join our community.